How do you feel about people saying that you destroyed his legacy?
Well, that's nonsense. I mean, his legacy is bigger. What's happened is that those people who introduced those rumors have complicated his legacy. There's two sides, like you said, to everything. The secondary side of it, by making such a controversy, they actually made his passing that much bigger, which is strange in a weird way. But we're in the time of beef and controversy. I mean, it's everywhere you look now. Controversy is attached to everything. You can't just sit here and say Solar, you're the only one addressing controversy. I mean, you've got cats now wearing dresses in hip-hop, and that's a controversy. You know, you had situations with men kissing each other. That was a controversy. Now you have openly gay basketball players. That's a controversy. Nicki Minaj hosting American Idol. That's a controversy. So everything has a controversy. Just to me, when you attach it to somebody who's not here to defend themselves, it takes on kind of that Marilyn Monroe situation where, people, you just never know when somebody's not here to speak. But in this case, I'm here. And I'm here to say and tell the world that Guru was a straight-up dude and a very respectable man and a great MC. And he contributed so much to this hip-hop game and to the music game that it's a shame and a travesty to let rumors overplay the actual work that he did and the actual contributions that he's made to hip-hop and my contributions to hip-hop and to culture. You know, whether you like what we do or not, it's been done, and the tours were successful, the albums were successful, and we did that on our own label. And it was a huge accomplishment in a time when labels were going under, and still are. And we launched a successful label in the middle of that. And in the same time, bringing Guru to a next level of his career and the next level of his life as an entrepreneur now, as a not a mogul, but a mogul type, you know what I mean? Actually kind of like the opposite of a mogul. Someone who has a label but's keeping it real to his meaning of keeping it real, where the music and the culture came before the hype and the bullshit. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's the real. I'm gonna keep it 100. There was none of that, nothing flimsy, nothing fake or nothing loose about Guru. He was tight, and he kept his ship tight. Dudes that got put out of his life once he sobered up, they got sour, and it could be them behind the rumors. Like I said, nobody's stepping up to say, "Hey, I own this." They're not stepping to me. You know, we heard a million things. I'm still here. I'm still moving around, and I ain't seen nobody say nothing about nothing to me personally, face to face. It just hasn't happened.
So what do you think? Do you think there was like a hidden agenda behind all the controversy, or
of course
what do you think? What do you think the MO was like behind it? Like why all the bashing towards you?
Well, let's set the stage. You know what I mean? Gang Starr broke up before I ever met Guru, and Gang Starr broke up for some pretty hairy and hideous reasons.
Okay.
So therefore,
and that was between Guru and DJ Premier.
And other factors, other factions of the camp, lawyers, managers, crooked managers. It's really the quintessential show business play, you know what I mean? Artist gets successful, artist gets overly successful, starts drinking and doing all the wrong things, looks up, checks his account, and there's a lot of money missing. He's not as successful as used to be, can't get that money back, starts doing really stupid things. Only difference here is that there's a Solar that comes into the picture and tells this brother Guru, let's wake up, bro. Let's clean yourself up. Let's let the alcohol go. That's gone. You can't get it back, but we can go and get this next situation. We can go and get this next money. And you can still be a factor in this game and let your natural self come out, and the fans will either support it or reject it. People don't want to understand. I couldn't force people to accept Guruandsolar. The world accepted us. So those factions that didn't like it, they wanted to stop the world from experiencing Guruandsolar. And now I think there's a faction that's even worse. They're like conspiring to have the world not know what Guruandsolar represent. And that's a very scary thing, people. Anytime you have a hidden group of people who are not identifying themselves, trying to tell you don't like this or don't listen to this or don't pay attention to the passing of a man that was so great, then you have to really question what's going on.
Well, I mean, he was known for always, being out and partying and drinking. Do you think that was like a major factor?
I think that any artist that you read about that's had these periods where their careers got out of control, I think you're going to find that in there usually somewhere, the drinking and the overindulgence and not paying close attention to your business. And then, in some cases, in a lot of cases, by the time they wake up, the business has already got away from them, and they're on the other end of that, you know what I mean?
Could we say the same for that with hip-hop now, with, like, all of the, like, the Molly usage and talking about that?
I don't want to overgeneralize, obviously his sensitivities. So, what I'll say is that the challenges that existed, they probably still exist even more right now.
Okay. Now let's talk about the infamous letter.
It's more like the will, really, his will, but yeah.
Right. So, allegedly, Guru had momentarily awakened from his coma.
No. That's what the haters.
That's the misconception.
That's what the haters put out there. That was done before he ever went into a coma. Let's go back to that and let's address the lies that surrounded that.
Let's go back.
All right, you have the videotape from Justin where he says Guru went to the hospital in an ambulance because of a heart attack. Completely false.
Cardiac arrest,
yes.
Right?
Guru entered the hospital for cancer treatment.
Right, which he had for over a year.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
He was diagnosed for a year, so we're assuming that he got it around the time of the diagnosis. So there was never an ambulance, there was never a heart attack, there was never me signing any papers. Prior to Guru's entering the hospital for the last time, he had entered the hospital 2 other times for treatment for the cancer, 1 for an operation. These very people who were releasing this information to the public weren't connected with Guru, and they weren't connected for Guru for many years. They weren't connected with Guru, not because of me. You have a sister and who's Justin's mother that they just didn't get along, and there was some family, history there that led to their, this situation. It was irrelevant to me, had nothing to do with me, and unfortunately, Guru passed before that could be addressed. I was very close with Guru's mom and dad, and his son is my godson. So this whole business about me being a stranger and coming in is completely nonsense. I think the fans will see very, very soon pictures being released to the media showing me going back with Guru's mom and dad. Peace be upon them. They passed now, but mom was like my mom, dad was like my dad. You know what I mean? It wasn't a Father's Day that I didn't speak to that man. You know what I mean? There wasn't a time that man was sick that we didn't get on the next thing moving to go and check on him and make sure he was good.
Right.
When mom went into the hospital, we was there. When Guru's son, my godson, broke his tooth, I was there taking him to the dentist. You know what I mean? So this whole fantasy island nonsense about I just came out of nowhere is what fit their agenda, and their agenda was money, quite frankly. And the reason why that letter upset them so much because they knew that there was, that was the actual public announcing that Guru wanted me to be in charge of his affairs and his business when he passed, and I am.
Now, do you still have the rights to his life story and everything?
Yes,
upcoming books or movies or whatever.
Everything has been assigned to me. I handle the legacy. It's been left to me as it should be. I understand the business. Me and Guru constructed and organized the business together once he sobered up, and there's nobody literally that he could look to, even if he wasn't so close with me, we weren't like brothers, that he could even look to that would have the capability to know the business in order to run the business. So we were running the business before, and of course I'm running the business now.
Now, what about the allegations about Guru's family saying that the letter/will wasn't valid?
Again, when you're not in the will, that's generally the approach. I mean, none of us are children. Look around. Anytime people are left out of wills or left out of situations, you have these types of allegations that get thrown around. It's just a part of life. I addressed it. Guru's attorney of many years advised them from the beginning of what Guru's intentions were. So they knew they're just misleading the public for their own, personal gain.
Now, I want to ask you about
and I'd also like to point out, at that time, people questioned my silence, but I understood beyond all of that they just lost somebody who they loved. Whether they were talking or not talking, that didn't change the fact that was still their loved one. And my being quiet was out of respect, not to attack people that are obviously in pain and they're not thinking sensible. Let's be realistic. You haven't heard anything more about this in 3 years. Here we are now.
Exactly.
They're not reiterating any of this, and none of this is being said because it's not true and it's not valid.
Okay. Something else about the letter that I wanted to talk to you about is it says his ex-DJ. And DJ Premier had said in an interview, why didn't they just say either DJ Premier or, his government name? Was there a reason behind that? Why did it say ex-DJ and not his actual name? Because there were 2 other DJs, from my understanding, that would tour with Guru.
Yeah, well, he was clearly talking about about Premier, and that's how he referred to Premier in interviews. So Guru's not here, and this would be really the question for Guru. And I don't want to answer everything about what Guru was thinking because I don't know everything the Guru was thinking.
Right.
Okay, but I can say with certainty that in prior interviews, whenever he was referring to Premier, that he would refer to DJ Premier as his ex DJ, and he didn't really refer to him too much by name. And that just cut to the level of discourse that was between those two men. All right,
Okay.
and again, I've said to the Gang Starr fans, I've said to the world, and I'll say it again, I don't have anything to do with that. When two men fall out, and they have reasons for falling out, I took the high road. I could have been on Sway when I went on MTV and said the reasons why Gang Starr broke up. I know the real reasons. Mm-hmm. But the real person they should be asking is Premier. He's alive. He's here. He's the one that was there when it happened. Let him go on the record and say why, rather than, than put me on Smash and try to put me on the spot. I didn't have nothing to do with that.
Right. Now, there's even more controversy of people saying that you prevented Guru's family from having contact with him during his illness.
Well, again, that just goes back to they could have came to visit him at any time. The man was free. He wasn't in any jail. He wasn't in a hospital. He had cancer. He was getting his treatment and moving around. Mm-hmm. They could have visited him at any time. They had his number. I'm sure they had his address. His son visited with him. I have pictures of him visiting with his mom, with his dad. We have videos of us going out and being about. He was doing concerts. He was on tour. They could have visited him at any point. Nobody stopped them from seeing anybody. Again, it's funny with fame. It's like I never really understood, when I would see these controversies erupt around, different artists. And, when I found myself in the middle of it, it's like I'm listening to these people talking. I'm like, who are they talking about? Like, and people that know me are like saying, what the fuck is going on, Solar? Why they not talking to us? You know what I mean? We tell them straight how you are. You're not. They didn't talk to anybody that really knew us, that was valid, that had proof of knowing us. They just talked to a couple of disgruntled musicians or groupies or. Let's look at the baby allegations. This chick came out of nowhere talking about that baby is mine. I mean, how many stars have been accused of making babies that are not theirs?
I was gonna say that happens every other day.
You know what I'm saying, but with me, all of a sudden, I'm the worst guy ever. Oh, he made even if I did make the baby, what's the big deal? I got to pay for it, right? If I don't, she's gonna go to court, which I don't pay for, and she hasn't went to court because it's not mine. But this is just how the craziness that I found myself in the middle of. At the same time, keep in mind, I just lost somebody who I love, dearly, and I went through the process of cancer with this man. You know what I mean? I'll say to any fans.
Which is difficult because I lost my grandmother to cancer, so I know that's difficult. It's
a horrible disease, and my heart goes out to anybody that's ever, had to deal with cancer or comes in contact with it because it is a drainer. It's just, it's the worst.
It's tough to watch.
And then you want to hope and you want to fight, and he fought. Guru was a fighter. But at the end of the day, cancer is a tough disease. It's a big disease with a little name.
And
sure.
From my understanding, he knew it was terminal from the beginning?
Not from the beginning. I mean, at the beginning, the doctors, and I'm not a cancer expert, so I don't want to sound like that at all. So I'm just going to say it seemed to be the how things go. You get cancer, they tell you what your odds are, if it's survivable, if it's not, or how many years you could get with this particular cancer. Mm-hmm. With his cancer, they told him that it is survivable and that it wouldn't be out of line or wouldn't be odd to him to have 5 to 10 years of normal life, or it could go into remission, and it could be in remission for who knows. So there was optimism at first. It didn't affect him to that degree where it immobilized him until the very end. So he was one of those people that had cancer that could function. He was able to do what he does, and we know we've seen quite a few stars.
It's almost like what we saw with Jay Dilla.
I don't know, at the end maybe, because you've seen some stars that had cancer, like Michael Douglas and a few that have been able to actually go on and do movies and tour. And I think the guy from the Monkees had cancer, and he's been touring. So some artists some people have been able to really just go on with their lives, and we thought that was the case for a little while there. We thought Guru really had this thing under control, and we were preparing to release a whole story, a book, and how Guru beat cancer to the fans. That was how we wanted to bring the story to the fans on the up note. Listen, I had this and I beat this. But, it took a turn for the worse, which, now in hindsight, it's not uncommon that cancer can do that sometimes.
And that was definitely, a loss for the hip-hop community, and it affected a lot of people.
Yeah.
Emotionally. I remember that day 3 years ago, and it was just a huge loss for all of us.
For the world. I mean, people don't even realize how important Guru was, not only to the hip-hop community, but to the world music community. And that when we were touring, when we were really doing good, we had become really media. We became large in the media. So when we would get off a plane in France, we would have Sky Radio, Skyrock, and all types of different, TV4 and different media outlets would want to talk to me and Guru about a plethora of things, not just about music, but about politics. We had a new president come in. We had an outgoing president that was very unpopular in Europe and around the world. And me and Guru, to hear Guru tell it, if you look back on interviews, he does speak on it, that we toured in places that he never went to before in his career. That we were paving all kinds of new territory for ourselves. If you remember, a lot of the criticisms before Guru passed was that I wasn't sounding like Premier. I wasn't making Gangstar beats. And that was for a reason. I was like, either I'm going to make it on my sound, because if I'd have done that, then, people would have accurately said, well, he's just a Premier ripoff. He's just making beats that already been made, which I think there's about a million of those already. I'd have been 1,000,001.
Very true.
So I ventured out to bring a new sound forward for Guru that excited him and excited myself. And if you listen to The Source, like The Source was the first ones to do a big interview on us and kind of say what was going on with the new sound, they totally endorsed me. You know what I mean? They said Solar, I remember the quote, Solar has the sound to break the radio matrix, you know what I mean? Meaning that I could bring in a sound that wasn't going to be mainstream, but radio would have to pay attention to it. And in fact, radio around the world has paid keen attention to the work that me and Guru has done.
Right.
And peace to all the programmers and DJs that spun and continue to spin the catalog, and that's beautiful.
Well, we were talking about this off air earlier. We were talking about the Jazzmatazz album. You said how he brought a completely different sound to hip hop by introducing jazz to it, and kind of breaking barriers by, I guess, bringing hip hop to an older crowd. And not staying in that underground circuit.
It's very, you know what? It deserves so much attention what he did with Jazzmatazz, because Jazzmatazz became a prototype and for so many different things. When you look at the features, an album full of features, that was one of the first albums to ever do that. It's the norm for all you young fans. That's all you know is an album full of features. But Guru was like the first one to do an album in hip hop that was like that. Right. Even though it was jazz hip hop. Jazz and hip hop had already been together from the beginning, but Guru took it to the next level and said, what happens when we actually go and get these jazz cats to actually play on the record? And at that time, the jazz musicians was mad at hip hop because a lot of them were being sampled and he wasn't getting their paper. Right. So they was not happy with hip hop at all. So Guru had his work cut out for him to go out and establish himself in this new genre of music. And he did that by linking with Dr. Donald Byrd, peace be upon him. He just recently passed. And he was a mentor to Guru. And when he sat down and understood what Guru wanted to do, he became the one to go to the jazz community and say, you know what, this kid is cool. Let's do this and let's support what Guru's doing. And Jazzmatazz 1 is born, and it's a classic that changes everything. It just, anytime you have anything that's real as what Guru was trying to accomplish, there are times when that realness just gets kind of glossed over, and this is one of those cases where they're glossing over all of the meat, so to speak, of Guru's work to latch on to, gossip and innuendo. And right. I'm here now to say to the fans, hey, listen, let's pay attention to what Guru did and how he did it and what those influences have been on music, and then to do Gangstar and Jazzmatazz simultaneously, and they're in two different complete genres, two different spectrums, if you will, of music. Was incredible. Premier here, he's the sample king, chopping up records, and they've got sued about 1 billion times.
What producer hasn't gotten sued?
No, myself included. It goes with the territory. Right. You're not a producer until you open up a lawsuit paper.
This is true.
And let me tell you something. 2 stories I talk about was my first check and my first lawsuit. My first royalty check. So,
But I think, Jazzmatazz was respected and embraced so well because he did it the right way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no
and I think when you're going to sample from any artist, as long as it's done with passion and done the right way, it's going to be supported by those people, unless they're just
That's so beautiful that you brought that out, because that's exactly what happened. That these musicians, we would meet them on tour. I mean, incredible stories I could tell you. Like we linked up with Stanley Jordan, and quite a few other dudes, and that's exactly what they would say to Guru. Man, I love what you did with that. Man, that was so sick with the jazzmatazz. And that's how they talk. Guru could do them perfectly, but they're like, listen, man, you're the best. You keep doing what you're doing. And these guys got Guru by 20 years. Guru's a middle-aged dude.
Like they just smoked a pack of Winston's.
And they're talking to Guru like he's a kid. Yeah, you keep doing what you're doing, Guru. And the flip side of that is the track that we did on Jazzmatazz with Ronnie Jordan. And he was such a cool dude. When we met him in Atlanta, and Guru said, listen, man, I got to get you on one of my records. And, it was just, he was just so cool about it. I was like, wow, these jazz guys come in so many different flavors. It's incredible. I mean? Bob James, he looks like somebody's grandfather, like a very mellow, sedate guy. And they're all characters in their own way. And I think that they saw what Guru represented and saw what I represented when we did Jazzmatazz 4 and tuned into that. You know what I mean?
Okay. Now, I want to go back real quick. Have you personally spoken to like DJ Premier or Bumpy Knuckles or Questlove, who all like came out and kind of, had comments to say after Guru's passing? Have you spoken to them at all?
Well, I've never, I knew Quest, like back when me and Guru was hitting the clubs when we was hanging out. I met him a few times, so we never had any kind of line of communication open to each other where we'd be, yo, peace, what's going on, how you doing? What I said to all of them back then, and I say again, before they should have been saying anything in the media, they should have been talking to me directly. Come and get the story from me. I'm the only one who knows. Nobody else was there. Don't make assumptions. Don't guess. And certainly don't take those assumptions and guesses and feed it to the public like it's fact. So they should have picked up a phone and called me or emailed me, and I would have certainly answered them back, as well as my phone is open now. The Quest, to Knuckles, to Premier, it always has been open. You know what I mean? He should be sitting here right next to me, and we clear the air and let everybody know what the real is. You know what I mean? Let them know what the truth is. But I don't know if they have an interest in doing that.
You personally don't have any like ill feelings or anything towards?
I mean, of course, I'm not going to be happy about any time you shitting on my man's reputation. That's my brother. You know what I mean?
Right.
My blood was boiling for a year. You know what I mean? I'm never going to be happy about that. And I think that, like I said in the Source interview, I think people should come clean. I think they should just step up, man up, and come clean. It's that simple. You know what I mean? Be a man and own up. You lied and you misled the people for reasons that are only known to yourselves. Has nothing to do with the music that you make or whatever, but you did this. You know what I mean? That man couldn't defend himself. And I'm sitting here defending him, and I'll be damned if I'm going to let anybody kick any more dirt on my name or Guru's name from here on in. That's over. For real.